You guys ready?
1 second.
1 second, all right. Unless you want me to. Good morning, everyone. First, I want to say Happy New Year to all of you. This is our first meeting of the year. Usually, we would have met in November and December of last year, but we didn't. So this is our first time I'm seeing everyone here. So Happy New Year. Hope 2024 is a better year than 2023 for all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. The meeting will now come to order. I would like to welcome this meeting of the Charlotte Unified Development Board of Adjustment on January 30th, 2024. My name is Douglas Wilson, and I am the chair of the board. Also sitting on today's board is Deborah Dryden, Amy Sun, Marshall Williamson, and Kevin Shea. Also present are John Kinley, Senior Project Manager, Lisa McCarter. Is Lisa still here?
Yes, she's here.
Okay. Planning Program Manager. Solomon Fortune is our Zoning Administrator. Teree Hagler Gray is our Senior Assistant City Attorney and Advisor to the staff. Jill is not here, but here today is, I don't know why I keep blanking now. I'm so sorry about that.
Nicole Hewitt.
Nicole Hewitt. Okay, I wasn't sure. Okay. But Nicole Hewitt is here. She's also an assistant city attorney. Crystal Roman is our planner. Kamisha Lampley is the clerk to the board. Did I pronounce that right? Kamisha, your last name? Okay. And our court reporter is Candy Thomas. And so we have a lot of new staff members here today that a lot of us are just getting to know. So welcome. All of you, and I know that we've seen you guys in our emails, so definitely want to welcome you guys. Okay. Each of today's hearings is a quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. That means it is like a court hearing. State law sets specific procedures and rules concerning how this board must make its decision. These rules are different from other types of land use decisions like rezoning cases. The board's discretion is limited. The board must base its decision upon competent, relevant, and substantial evidence in the record. A quasi-judicial decision is not a popularity contest. It is a decision constrained by the standards in the audience and based on the facts presented. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and ordinance standards, not personal preference or opinion. Parties with standing have rights to participate fully. Parties may present evidence, call witnesses, and make legal arguments. Parties are limited to the applicant, the city, and individuals who can show they will suffer special damages. Other individuals may provide testimony as witness when recognized by the board. Witnesses must swear or affirm their testimony. Any individual wishing to speak as a witness today was required to sign up. If you haven't done so, please do so now. General witness testimony is limited to facts, not opinions. For certain topics, this board needs to hear opinion testimony, from expert witnesses. These topics include projections about impacts on property values and projections about impacts of increased traffic. Individuals providing expert opinion must be qualified as experts and provide the factual evidence upon which they base their expert opinion. While hearsay evidence is not specifically excluded, it's only given limited weight. The parties to each case are entitled to an impartial decision maker. A board member may not participate in a hearing if she or he has a fixed opinion about the matter, a financial interest in the outcome of the matter, or a close familiar business or associational relationship with an affected person. The parties to each case also have a right for any ex parte communication to be disclosed. Ex parte communication is any communication about the case outside the hearing. That may include site visits as well as conversations with parties or the general public. At the start of each case, any potential conflict or interest or ex parte communication should be disclosed by a board member if applicable. These matters may also be raised by an affected party. Today's meeting will follow the order printed on the agenda. The board will hear variance cases, applications for variances from the regulations in the Unified Development Ordinance. The order of the agenda will be as follows. All parties who plan to give testimony must be sworn in. A zoning staff member will present a summary of the variance request. The board may question the staff member, and then the applicant may question the staff member. The applicant presents their testimony for the case. The board may question the applicant, and the zoning staff may question the applicant. The applicant may present other sworn witnesses. They will also be subject to questioning by the board and staff. Other parties wishing to speak for or against an application will be given a reasonable time to present sworn testimony. The staff and the applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal. After hearing each case, the board will review each case and render a decision. This is usually done in closed deliberations after hearing each case. The chairperson calls for a motion and a second to approve or deny the variance or appeal. The decision will be made by a simple majority vote of the board. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during the deliberations, or you may call the zoning staffer after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must remain with the board. If your case is not appealed to Superior Court after 30 days, you may pick them up or they will be destroyed. Appeals from this board is to the Mecklenburg County Superior Court. You have 30 days from the date of the board's written decision in which to appeal in accordance with the North Carolina General Statute 160D-405D. In order to receive a written copy of the decision, any aggrieved party must file a written request for a copy of the board's decision by filling out the form, which must be filed with the board's clerk or chairperson at the time of the hearing of this case. We now open the evidentiary hearing. I'm sorry, let me stop myself right there. That ends my speech. The first thing actually that we are going to do is, I know on the agenda we have, the first thing is the election and nomination of chair and vice chair for the 2024 term. Board members, I was advised by Nicole, if we want to have it today, we could, or we can just wait till next month. My opinion, maybe we should wait for next month, because Solomon did bring to our attention that we may have some board members rolling off and new board members coming on. So hopefully by the ending of February, the city council would have met and appointed some new members. So if everybody's okay with that, I think we can just delay, and we don't have to do a vote or a motion for that, right? Okay.
No, and just to clarify, my understanding is that there will be some new appointments and some reappointments, and there are also board members that will be rolling off of the board. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, John and Solomon, is that the expectation is that there will be 2 new regular board members, given that we'll have one alternate that will remain as an alternate for the foreseeable future, and then one of our alternates is intended to be appointed as a regular member. And so given that we'll have 2 new members, it might be in the best interest of the board to wait until the next meeting so that you can look at the new composition of the board and vote at that time.
Okay.
And I'll just add too, we do have 3 alternates. The third alternate, John Floyd, he did let us know that he was intending to, he resigned. So his position would need to be filled as well. So yeah, the composition of the board will change. And Douglas, I believe you're rolling off and can't be reappointed either. So,
oh, I'm rolling off?
We're going to miss you.
Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you served your
Because I feel like I was just
maximum terms that you can serve. So
see, I told you.
You have to take
I told you. Yeah.
You have to take at least a year break and then you can come back.
Okay. Because I was saying, I feel like I've been here since like 2018. I feel like, yeah, like been here like none of you guys were here really, except for is there and Candy was here. So, okay, all right, got it. All right. And Nicole, sorry, I forgot your name. My coffee didn't kick in, so it's, and I'm sorry about that. Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. It's
Yeah,
Tuesday morning.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah, it is Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I thought thinking it's Monday. Okay. All right. So the other thing we have on the agenda, the September minutes, we've been informed by staff that that's going to be ready at our February meeting. And so we don't have that. I mean, we have it, but I think there's some additions that need to be made to it. So we'll have that updated for the next meeting. We do have, however, our October 31st meeting minutes, which was emailed to everybody by Crystal. And so I don't know if board members had a chance to review that.
Yeah, you should also have a printout, I believe.
Yeah, it should be a printout on you guys. So
Motion to approve.
yeah, without objection, is there a motion to?
I make a motion to approve the October 31st, 2023 minutes as written.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been moved by Ms. Dryden to approve the October 31st, 2023 minutes. Second by Mr. Shea. Now we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Mr. Williamson.
Williamson, yes.
Okay. All right. Wilson, yes. The October 31st minutes have been approved. Okay. Next on the recommended agenda, we have, and I don't know if staff is ready.
We have 3 items on the recommendation agenda, and to my knowledge, there's no one in support. So if y'all want to move forward with taking care of those, we can get
Yeah.
started.
You mean opposition?
Okay.
There's no one in opposition.
That's oh, I meant to say opposition. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Solomon.
All right. I'm sorry. I'm going through my email here. I'm trying to get to it. Okay. I'm trying to find the case thing. All right. So we now open the evidentiary hearing for case number 2023-00031. I'm used to saying Lisa. So John, whenever you're ready.
Yeah.
This is being represented by Craig Isaac and Craig W. Isaac Architecture. And the applicant is here? Oh, there you go. Okay, great.
You need to swear me in?
Yeah, I need to swear you in, yeah. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth at the matter at hand? Thank you very much.
All right, so our first case is a variance on 2608 Croydon Road. It's represented by Craig Isaac, and the property is at 2608 Croydon Road, tax parcel you see there. They're requesting a 12-foot variance from the required 35-foot rear setback to allow an addition to the rear of the home. Slide 1 is a vicinity map of the area. It's down kind of near Selwyn Road and Park Road. Slide 2 is just a closer view of the property, and it's zoned N1B, Neighborhood 1 zoning district. And slide 3 is a more close view of the aerial of the site. And then exhibit number 4, slide 4, is a non-conforming parcel. Just shows that it's a non-conforming parcel. So N1B zoning requires a minimum lot area of 8,000 square feet. And the parcel is only 7,557 square feet, approximately 87 feet front to back. And then on the right side, 97 feet front to back on the left side, and 82 feet wide at the rear. And you can kind of see on this map that it is quite a bit smaller than the other parcels in the area. The next slide is just a close-up view of the site. You can see the kind of outline of the existing home. Slide 5 is showing the existing footprint of the house in the rear setback line. And you can see this area towards the back where there's an existing encroachment. And it encroaches up to 11 feet 3 inches into the rear of the yard. And that's all legal non-conforming encroachment. So the variance request is requesting a 12-foot variance because we round that 11 feet 3 inches up to the nearest whole foot, requesting a 12-foot variance from the required 35-foot rear setback to allow an addition to the existing home. So they would be an addition for a garage on the left-hand side of the home that would encroach up to the rear building line. An addition to the right-hand side of the home that also goes up to the rear building line, and then a second floor addition over the existing basically back wall footprint of the home for a whole second story. The next slide is the standards for granting a variance. And again, just a reminder, all 4 criteria have to be met and for the board to consider approving the variance request. Go to slide 8, please. And then did we get the findings of fact going around everybody yet? I'll just wait for everybody to get those.
While you're passing those out, how much of what's already there is encroaching? They're not increasing that encroachment, are they?
Correct. Yeah.
Co-Chair Dryden, could you turn on your microphone?
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to make sure the house that's there that was already built
Right.
and the encroachment they're asking for does not exceed what was already there,
Right.
correct?
It does not go further into the rear
Further
yard
into
than
the
what's
yard.
already there now. Yes.
Thank you.
The additions on, if we could go back to the site plan, Crystal, the second slide there. So the additions on either side are basically the lighter color in the middle there is basically the boundaries of the existing side walls of the house. So it does get closer to the side property lines, but those fall within the allowed setbacks. And then the addition to the back, it just lines up to the existing extent of encroachment at the back. All right, slide 8 is the considerations and for the decision. The unnecessary hardships would result from strict application of the ordinance. It results in strict application of the ordinance because there's a lack of depth in the property between the front or from the existing home and the rear of the rear setback, restricting the building envelope. Hardship results in conditions that are particular to the property because of the lack of depth and small size of the site compared to other lots in the surrounding area. It doesn't result in actions taken by the applicant or the owner of the property. The hardship results in the lot configuration and the existing encroachment that was created when the dwelling was constructed in 1952 by the original owner. And the variance request is consistent with the spirit, intent, and purpose of the ordinance. The proposed garage additions do not further encroach to the rear yard than the existing home. The proposed additions will not encroach on the side yards abutting other single-family homes, and granting the variance will not adversely affect the adjacent contiguous properties. And granting the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and the majority of the surrounding homes in the neighborhood are already 2 stories. And that concludes the presentation. I'll take any questions.
We go back to the footprint slide and make it full screen, please.
This one here?
No, next one.
I don't know if you can zoom in on it, because I think if we make it full screen, it just changes what's shown on the YouTube screen. But if you can just zoom in on it, I think there's a zoom option behind this. Drag that out of the way.
Okay, thank you.
How big do you want to go?
Good. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the board for staff? Okay. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the variance?
I make a motion to approve the variance.
Is there a second?
Sounds good.
Okay, there's been a motion made to approve the variance by Ms. Dryden and a second by Ms. Sun. Now we move into a roll call vote. Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Say yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Wilson, yes. Okay. Now we will review the finding facts and conclusions of law.
I vote to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as written.
Board Member Dryden, I would just note the board to the conclusions of law in number 4. It states that the requested variance is consistent with spirit, purpose, and intent of the zoning ordinance. I would just ask clarification, is this a requested variance from the zoning ordinance or from the UDO?
It's from the UDO.
Okay. So we need to
I would
strike
just
that.
advise the board to change zoning ordinance to UDO.
Okay.
Okay.
So just to recap, we are making an edit to number 4 in the conclusions of law where it says purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. It should be, should it just be, could we just do UDO? We have to spell out the acronym.
It can be just the UDO.
UDO, okay. So that's the only change for conclusion of law. Any other edits that we may have missed? That staff, I don't know if you've seen any edits that you may have missed. Any more, Nicole? Okay. Yeah, you may want to, Dick, you may want to,
Okay, let me amend my.
Amend, yeah.
oops. I'll amend my recommendation to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as edited.
okay. Is there a second? I think, Amy, do you want to resecond?
Yes.
So, okay.
Sun second.
All right, so there's been a motion to approve the finding facts and conclusions of law as edited by Ms. Dryden and second by Ms. Sun. And now we move into a roll call vote. Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Say yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Wilson, yes. Thank you very much. That variance has been approved. Next, we have case number 2023-00035 by Spartacus Ventures LLC. Okay, John, you may proceed.
Do you need us, do I need to be sworn in for each individual case?
No.
All right. We'll proceed then. Spartacus Ventures LLC is for a property at 4734 Valley Stream Road. It's requesting a 7-foot variance from the required rear setback and a 4-foot variance from the required 17-foot front setback to allow the existing dwelling to remain. First slide is a vicinity map. It's down between Park Road and South Boulevard, north of Tybola Road. The parcel is off of Valley Stream, just north of Seneca Place. And it's zoned N1C Neighborhood 1 zoning district under the UDO. The slide is showing the aerial of the site. On the aerial, you can see where the fence line is, and the fence line and the zoning boundary don't align, but the fence is basically where the side property line is. We're not really sure why the zoning and the property line don't align exactly in that location, but everywhere else the zoning and the property lines match up. If there's any confusion as to the lines that are on the maps. The next slide is a zoomed in aerial of the site. And just one key thing I want to point out here is that you can see the stone and riprap at the back along the property, and you can kind of see at the very edge, that's actually water for Little Hope Creek that's at the rear of this parcel. Little Hope Creek is located along the rear of the parcel. There's a 100-foot swim buffer and a post-construction buffer that covers the entirety of the parcel. That's the striped lines here. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That's the gray and green. And then there's the majority of the property is encumbered by FEMA floodway and floodplain zones also along Little Hope Creek, and that's the striped areas, and that covers most of the property. They did get an email from Stormwater that confirmed exemption from the stormwater buffer, and they also received a floodplain permit when they built the home. In 2018, this parcel received a variance. I don't know if any of you are on the board and happen to remember that, but they did receive a variance back then. And it was granting a 10-foot variance from the required 25-foot setback that was on the recorded plat to allow the construction of the home. And then in 2023, you see, oh, sorry, can we go to the back of slide? Or sorry, forward one, sorry. Yeah, in 2023, that's the current conditions of the parcel, and the house has been constructed. The UDO Development Ordinance requires a 30-foot rear setback and a 17-foot front setback. Go to the next slide. Variance is requesting a 7-foot variance from the required rear setback and a 5-foot variance from the required front setback to allow the home that was built to remain. Next slide is just the standards for granting a variance. All four need to be met. For the variance criteria, and the findings have been passed out, the unnecessary hardship results in the strict application of the ordinance. The hardship results in the strict application of the ordinance because there's lack of depth of the property at the front and rear setbacks, and that restrict the building envelope. Also, the conditions are peculiar to the property because there's conditions with the FEMA floodplain, FEMA floodway, swim, and post-construction buffers that are adjacent and along Little Hope Creek, and the odd shape of the parcel due to the flow of the creek and the curve of Valley Stream Road. The hardship does not result in the actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. Hardship is result from the lot configuration and environmental constraints. And then the variance requested is consistent with the purpose and intent of the ordinance and the intent of the regulations, such that public safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. The dwelling has elevated construction to limit impacts on the water quality buffers and floodplain and floodway. Dwelling does not encroach into the side yards abutting other single-family homes, and granting the variance would not adversely affect the adjacent or contiguous properties, and granting the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. And then the last slide is just the sign at the property. And that concludes the presentation. I'll take any questions.
I have a question. So it says on item number 9 that the parcel lines used during permitting were inaccurate. Was it a problem with the 3G Polaris, or was it the applicant that submitted incorrect parcel line?
It was based on the parcel lines in Polaris, and so after the home was built, they did an as-built survey that showed more accurate property lines, and that's where the difference between what they got during permitting and used for the permit and versus what they have found now and are asking for the variance request for.
Got it. And the current variance they're requesting is on top of what they already got from the 2018 variance.
Correct.
Because of the parcel line problem.
Correct. Well, what they got in 2018 was based off of what the plat had, the recorded plat showed, and they got a variance to that. But this basically it would revise that variance to reflect what's required under the Unified Development Ordinance, the setback for that, because it's a 17-foot front setback, and they're asking to, what was it? It was a 5-foot variance on the front. So it's it's not like on top of what they had already gotten, but it's still less than what they had before. It's more of a reduction than what they had before because the setbacks have changed from, it went from 25 for the plat, it got reduced by 10, and now they're going from 17 to 5. So I'm not sure exactly how that math works out off the top of my head, but essentially it's another couple of feet that they need on the front. I think it's like maybe 2 feet.
Okay, thanks.
Just my information, when the city moves the goalposts by putting the UDO up, and these folks haven't done anything wrong, they have to pay for this application, correct? There's a fee to come here, yes?
Yes, there is a fee. I will say for this zoning district, the previous zoning, it was a 35-foot rear yard. And with the UDO, that's now a 30-foot rear yard. And then on the front, it was, well, whatever they had varied, but I'm not sure what the front setback was. I believe it was 20 feet under the old code. So the ordinance in this case for this residential zoning district, the differences between the legacy zoning ordinance and the unified development ordinance, the setbacks actually did get smaller. It's just not enough to accommodate the construction of this specific home.
I'm just wondering if there's any remuneration available to these people that did nothing wrong and we move the goalposts on them. I'm just curious if it happens that people say, hey, listen, I don't need to pay this.
I guess, I need to swear in because I'll answer that question.
Board member, Chairman Wilson, would you be able to swear in Mr. Fortune? He's going to answer Board Member Shea's question.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, in the matter at hand?
I do.
Okay.
So Mr. Shea, what happens is on this one, I believe, typically your property will either be in a non-conforming status or like here, what happened is I believe the property owner brought it to our attention and as working with him. So it wasn't necessarily when the city changes something that we say, you as the property owner have to come in and spend money. It's obviously what happens is part of that dealing when they say, hey, I got this as-built survey. I noticed that I'm off. And then that's when we work with them. As John mentioned, we take the old code, not the old code. We take the UDO and we looked at the setbacks and then we realized, hey, to get you out of this non-conforming status, it would be, you need to change this. So for example, if he didn't come in, we'd have said, hey, this stays because he had the 2018 variance, we'd have allowed him to maintain.
We would have, or we would not?
We would have.
Okay.
So the property owner say, if you're not conforming, we don't go out and say, you have to come in and make it
Gotcha,
right.
gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, great.
And
So
to
if he
follow,
goes to sell the house, he's gonna come up on a survey and
That's-
then he would.
I'll be honest with you. I'll probably say yes. Most of the time when you get those cases, that's exactly what's happened to the closing attorney or someone that said, hey, we found this encroachment. We want you to make it right. And so that's when that property owner comes to us. And like I said, if we can work it out, we try to before he comes to us. But if not, that's why you're here. They're here.
and do you need to submit another application to correct that, or it's just automatically you adjust it on your end?
I'm sorry, Miss.
Oh, I mean, like in that scenario, for example, when they're selling the property, do they need to submit another application or
They would have to file a variance. That's correct. If they file, for example, if there's encroachment. So like the last time I had, last one thing we dealt with, there was an encroachment because when they went to sell it, one of those accessory structures was encroaching too far into that required rear yard and the side setback.
Got it. Thanks.
Seen it a million times. We've seen that a million times.
Yeah, I've seen that sometimes. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Hearing no more questions from staff, I should say. Is there a motion to approve the variance?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion's been made to approve the variance by Mr. Shea. Is there a second?
Dryden, second.
The motion's been seconded by Ms. Dryden. Now we have a roll call vote. Mr. Shea,
Shea, yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Yes.
Wilson, yes. Okay. Now we're going to review the finding facts and conclusions of law.
Mr. Chair, would have the same addendum as earlier to the number 4 on conclusions of
Oh,
law.
wow.
zoning
Okay.
ordinance, The UDO.
We apologize. We've been
No,
saying
no, no.
zoning ordinance for
Gonna
like
be on
20
Yeah, we've been
years.
calling
It'll be on all,
for a while,
it'll be
yeah.
on all the cases.
Yeah, we've been saying zoning ordinance for a long time, so we will make sure that doesn't happen on the next meeting.
Just for the clerk, the court reporter, excuse me, to hear. There's been another edit made to conclusion of law number 4 to reflect UDO instead of zoning ordinance in that sentence. And John, I know you had pointed out, I'm sorry, that's on the next case. Sorry. I may have pointed out some.
All right, I
That's
make a
what-
motion to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as amended.
All right, motion's been made to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as amended by Ms. Dryden. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Shea.
Yes.
Okay. Second by Mr. Shea. Now we will roll call vote. Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Say yes.
Mr. Williamson.
Williamson, yes.
All right, Wilson, yes. Our next case is case number 20223-00037 by Gray Star Development East LLC, and they're represented by John Carmichael. Okay, John, you may proceed.
And I'll just go ahead quickly. On the agenda, it says just requesting a variance from the requirement. And in our findings document and the presentation, it just clarifies that it is requesting a 573-foot variance. So I'll go over that starting from the top though. Gray Star Development East LLC, represented by John Carmichael, is requesting a variance for property at 4002 Sam Wilson Road. It's requesting a variance for the 573-foot variance for 4 proposed buildings to the section 15.4 triple H 2B of the Unified Development Ordinance. And it states that all portions of every residential building in a multifamily development shall be located within 400 feet of a public street, network required street, or non-network required private street that has direct access to the building. And it is to allow the buildings to be located up to 973 feet from the required, network required street. Apologize. The first slide is a vicinity map. Its site is on Sam Wilson Road on the west side, just south of Wilkinson Boulevard and north of Old Dowd. The site encompasses 4 parcels, kind of in an L configuration at the corner of Sam Wilson and Wilkinson Boulevard. And it is zoned into C, which is neighborhood 2 zoning. Next slide shows an aerial of the site. Part of it is developed with an existing building. Some of it's vacant. I think there's a smaller structure up at the corner closer to Wilkinson Boulevard, Sam Wilson Road intersection. The zoom close-up aerial of the site. And then next slide. So the CAT Silver Line corridor is along the site frontage, and the development plan includes right-of-way reservation. And then NCDOT denied access to Sam Wilson Road near the intersection of Wilkinson Boulevard. So in that first picture, you can see the area highlighted. That line highlighted is the Silver Line, and then there's a proposed station right about here on the east side of Sam Wilson Road, and all of that is in the CAT's adopted route of the Silver Line. So because it's an adopted route, the corridor has been adopted. As a result, their development plan is setting aside the area 100-foot reservation for future CAT's right-of-way along the entirety of their Wilkinson Boulevard frontage. And as part of that right-of-way agreement, they are not allowed to have driveways accessing off of Wilkinson Boulevard into the site. In addition, when they were going through plan review, they requested and proposed a street, or they're required to have a street come off of Sam Wilson into the site. And they were proposing, if we go to the next slide, I can show you where that's at. Go to the next one. So originally they were proposing to have that road come in right across the street from there's a couple driveways right here, but basically approximately right across the street from where those were. And during permitting, NCDOT denied that driveway connection or intersection and requesting that it be further away from Wilkinson Boulevard. So as a result, they moved that street down to here where Road A is on the plan. And that distance is now 730 feet from the intersection of Wilkinson Boulevard to the next nearest intersection to Road A. The site plan then has Road A coming into the site, connecting to another network required street at the back of the property, which would be Road B, and that stubs to the north and south property lines. So at issue is these buildings here that are now more than 400 feet away from the nearest access to a network required street. And that distance from that intersection up to the corner is approximately 973 feet. So resulting in basically a difference of 573 feet that they're asking for the variance to. Next slide is just the standards for granting the variance and the variance criteria. I'll go over that. Hardship results in strict application of the ordinance because CAT's right-of-way and NCDOT requirements prohibit the creation of street intersections along Wilkinson Boulevard and Sam Wilson that would allow compliance. The hardship results in conditions that are peculiar to the property. The hardship results from conditions that are peculiar because the site is located at the intersection of Wilkinson Boulevard and Sam Wilson Road. And per the Charlotte Street map, Wilkinson Boulevard is a designated 4+ boulevard, and Sam Wilson Road is designated as a 4+ avenue. And then there's also the future CAT's Silver Line that is along Wilkinson Boulevard per the adopted Silver Line route. Hardship does not result in actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. It results in actions taken, results from the restrictions on creating new street intersections along Wilkinson Boulevard and near the intersection of Sam Wilson Road and Wilkinson Boulevard. And then the variance request is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulations such that safety is secured and substantial justice is achieved. Applicant does provide the vehicular access via Road A, which connects to Sam Wilson Road, and per Exhibit C, Road A must meet the separation requirements that are required by CDOT and NCDOT. And then an intersection of Road A and Sam Wilson Road is approximately 730 feet from Wilkinson Boulevard to be compliant with NCDOT's requirements. The proposed driveway that is accessing the site off of Road A is 200 feet from Sam Wilson Road, which is also compliant with UDO Article 31.3B, which is basically distances that driveways have to be from intersections. And then granting the variance will preserve the future CAT's Silver Line right-of-way and space for future transportation improvements to the intersection at Sam Wilson and Wilkinson Boulevard. And that concludes the presentation, and I'll take any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions for staff?
Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
So it hasn't been built yet, it's just in the pre-construction.
That is correct. It's in permitting.
All right. So the road into this complex is going to actually be kind of convoluted because we'll have to go in and, because there's no direct access from Wilkinson, right? So they have to do two roads to get out to Wilkinson Boulevard.
So yeah, traffic that's wanting to go, say, from these apartment
Right.
buildings out to Wilkinson would have to come down through their parking lot to Road A,
Okay.
out to Sam Wilson, and then up Sam Wilson to the intersection of Wilkinson. That's correct.
And pretty much all that's dictated because of CDOT.
NCDOT and
NCDOT.
CATS, right?
So,
Because the
CATS.
CATS right away restricts them from having a driveway out onto Wilkinson directly. And then NCDOT says you can't have a
Too
street
much
close
traffic.
to
in.
Sam Wilson.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff?
Is it right in, right out? Just, they don't want to have that because
They-
of,
Yeah, they asked NCDOT, I think it may be even in the email that we screen clipped, but they asked if at first I think they were proposing a full movement intersection. And then NCDOT was like, no, we won't support that. So the result then was in the email chain that they provided is we'll change this. What if we do it as a right in, right out intersection? And NCDOT also denied that request.
And my assumption, John, is kind of the same genre here. Again, there is no disruption to traffic, given that this is close to, I'm assuming this is kind of close to the airport. I know there's some construction from the airport as well over on Wilkinson. So I'm assuming there's going to be no problems to traffic and stuff like that, right?
They're doing what they can to meet NCDOT and CDOT's requirements. And I don't know what sort of transportation improvements that NCDOT has planned for the intersection of Wilkinson and Sam Wilson. But I think the result of whatever plans they do have is why they're having to move it further south away from that intersection to accommodate any future improvements.
Okay.
And the road that they're proposing, go back a slide. Yeah, that one. So there's already an existing road there. Is it 2-lane or 4? Do you know?
So Sam Wilson is existing. The
Right
Road
there,
A
yeah.
Was the new. That's a new street.
Oh, it's a new street.
entirely.
They're gonna, okay,
Yeah, the developer would be building Road A and Road B
okay,
because of the subdivision requirements for creating network required streets.
okay. So they're gonna create those
Yes.
for that development. Okay. All right. Thank you.
yeah, just for my curiosity, Road B is it sort of looks like a road to nowhere.
Dead end, yeah.
Yeah, it's so the intent of the subdivision ordinance when requiring network required streets is that it sets up for future connectivity. So when there's basically your distances between parcel lines is over a certain number of feet, that requires a new street to be created. And so because of the distance between Sam Wilson and the back property line, they're required to have a north-south street at the back of their site that would then set up for future connectivity in the event that the properties to the north or to the south redevelop.
And also as part of the subdivision ordinance is requiring, since that lot can be further subdivided, that's that street. So
Right.
we're assuming in the future that lot's going to be redeveloped.
You got a question? All right. If there are no more questions for staff from the board, excuse me, is there a motion to approve the variance?
Motion to approve.
Did you say that?
Motion to approve.
Okay, good. All right. Motion to approve the variance has been made by Mr. Williamson. Is there a second?
Shay, second.
A second by Mr. Shea. Now we will move to a roll call vote. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Wilson, yes. Now, on the finding facts and conclusions of law, we have the same edit from the last time. Number 4, for our court reporter. That needs to be changed from zoning ordinance to UDO. And that was the,
Not this one.
do you see something else?
Number 4 is not.
Number 4 in the, where it says the applicants propose to construct a multi-dwelling development on the site.
No, did you say number 4?
Number 4.
I'm sorry, I meant conclusions of law number 4.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
And number 11 is correct, right? It's the 573 feet from 400 feet, 907. So those numbers are correct on the conclusions of law. Number 11,
Let me make sure, double check.
It's on the finding of facts, actually.
under the finding of facts, I'm sorry.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I make a motion to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as amended.
All right, motion's been made to approve the finding facts and conclusions of law as amended by Ms. Dryden. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Williamson. And now we move into a roll call vote. Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Mr. Shea,
Shay, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Son, yes.
Wilson, yes. Okay. All right, moving right along on our agenda, the next case was requested deferral to February 27th. That's case number 2023-00033. And they have requested a deferral to February 27th. So for the record there. That will bring us to the next variance on our agenda is case number 2023-00036. And to my understanding, we do have, I don't know if opposition is the right word to use, but do we have the applicant here and do we have someone that is against this, right? Am I correct? Or?
It's just the staff wasn't supporting this one, so there's just the applicant here to speak in favor of their request and testify.
Can you say that again?
Yeah.
Staff was in support of this one, so that's why it's in the regular agenda.
Okay,
Was not or what?
Was not.
Was
it's
not?
not, okay. So, okay, okay, so,
He does have to be sworn in.
yeah, I have to swear him in too. Okay. Yeah, so, what am I doing? I just keep. Here we go. All right. Okay. All right. So, John, if I'm hearing you correctly, city staff has approved this, right?
We're not recommending approval.
It's not approving it. Okay. All right. Okay. So before we get started, I would like to swear in the applicant in case he has to speak. Did you already sign in?
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you could please approach the table. I'm not going to call it the bench. So approach the table. And if you could raise your right hand, and if you're comfortable touching the Bible, that's fine. Okay, if you can give your name and address for the court reporter and spell it out, please. Yeah.
Craig Isaac, 900 Little Lane, South North Carolina.
Okay.
Justin Cook, 640 Marsh Road, JUSTIN,
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth in the matter at hand? Okay. All right. And you can take a seat there. And once John finishes his presentation, then we can you can then give your presentation as well. And for staff, have you received his the applicant's okay, you're getting it now. No, you know, okay. Solomon, Crystal, have you guys received their presentation? Okay. All right.
We should have that available to pull up as well.
Yeah, do you guys have that? Well, Nicole, am I missing anything?
Yeah.
Anything I need to, before I get started?
Not at the moment.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I think we got everybody sworn in. All right. Board, you guys got everything you need for it? All right, John, kick it away.
Okay, this is from Justin Cook, represented by Justin and Rosie Cook and Craig Isaac for the property located at 640 Marsh Road. It's requesting an 11-foot variance from the required rear, 35-foot rear setback to accommodate an addition to the single-family home. Vicinity map, this is off of Marsh, near, not too far away from the intersection with South Boulevard. And next slide is just showing the zoning of the property. It's neighborhood 1B zoning district. And next slide is aerial of the site. You see the existing house and the yard. And then again, a close-up aerial of the parcel as well, showing the back kind of existing wall and how this house is currently constructed. The UDO requires a 35-foot rear yard setback, and that's shown in the dashed line running across the rear of the property here on the site plan. The variance request would be an 11-foot variance from the required rear yard at this corner here, basically from the proposed addition. That would bring it to be 24 feet to the rear property line. So here you can see the existing footprint of the home, and then they have proposed an addition that would include family room, bathroom, so I believe a laundry area, and then a new bedroom here in this corner. And then this is just showing how the roof line would change, existing roof line here, and then the proposed roof line with that addition below. Next slide. Standards for granting a variance. Again, all four need to be met in order for the board to consider the variance. Going over the hardships and findings, there is hardship that would result in the strict application of the ordinance. There is no evidence of practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship. The hardship does not result in conditions that are peculiar to the property, location, size, or topography. The rear parcel line is at an angle and ranges at a depth from 138 feet to 177 feet. However, it's not unique to unique property. Many of the surrounding lots in the area have angled rear lot lines with lesser depths front to back. And granting the variance could set a precedent by allowing a new encroachment of 11 feet on the subject property in the absence of unique circumstances. This hardship does result in actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. It result in actions taken by the applicant by the construction of the addition that creates a rear yard encroachment. There are other compliant options for an addition in the allowable building footprint to the right of the dwelling and construction of a second story. The applicant states that the proposed addition would avoid blocking the existing bedroom windows to maintain emergency access. However, if they constructed a second story, that would also avoid blocking windows. The requested variance is not consistent with the spirit and purpose intent of the ordinance, and that public safety is secured and substantial justice achieved. The applicant has compliant options to construct the addition or a second story without a variance. The applicant does state or has stated that optimally a square or rectangle footprint would be constructed as it provides more efficient use of the space and easier construction and maintenance and is more cost effective. Article 37.8A 12G of the UDO does state, though, that the fact that the property could be utilized more profitably or conveniently with the variance than without the variance shall not be considered as grounds for granting a variance. And then the last slide is just showing the site and then other parcels in the neighborhood. And you can see that there are others in the neighborhood with angled rear yard lines. And that concludes our presentation. I'll take any questions.
Okay, are there any questions for staff?
If you go back to the aerial, right there, the house to the south, plan south, next door to the left, is there a variance on that lot?
I can look it up real quick and see if there is. I'm not aware that there is, but I'll double check. I don't see one popping up on our layer. That house, I'm assuming you're looking at the rear property line. The house was constructed, let me see if I can see when that was.
Can I speak? 1945.
Thank you. So that would be, it'd be a legal non-conforming condition, Marshall.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Any other questions for staff before we hear from the applicant? All right. Hearing none, we will now hear from the applicant, and we'll wait until their PowerPoint is pulled up by staff.
Should be. There it is.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to do something.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, they're saying you can't do it economically because that's one of the things that apparently just meant money.
Right.
The biggest thing you have a lot more impact on the entire house.
Right.
Not a second story.
Right.
You're not trying to get the population.
Oh, wow. I'm gonna handle that for sure. Yeah. All right. Okay, there we go.
You can,
You can use this to scroll.
Okay,
You can scroll down to the next.
thank you. Okay, all right. Hello, thank you to the board for the opportunity to present today. I'm joined here today by my wife, Rosie Cook. And we're hoping to present to you a compelling case for a way to enhance our home so that we can remain there. We've been there for 7 years. The neighborhood has changed a lot. So we purchased the home in 2017 as a family of 2. Since then, we've added 2 children to our family, and unfortunately, the home has not grown around us. Still just have that original 3 bedrooms. The home was built in 1948, and so much like other homes built in the 40s, you're going to encounter some of the original charm of homes in the 40s, you know, smaller bedrooms, smaller family rooms. And so we're looking to kind of bring the home up to date without tearing down the structure, which is really what's happening throughout the entire neighborhood. Okay, we can just speak very briefly on the project purpose, and some of the intros to hardships. Okay, so one main point is that the home is just not consistent with today's building standards, particularly those of the Sedgefield neighborhood. I think you guys probably are familiar with Sedgefield. It's one of the region's fastest growing neighborhoods. Lots of immense growth, tons of construction projects. And as mentioned, you know, our living space is fairly limited. The, you know, addition would allow us to add some office space and some additional bathrooms. It's primarily speaking to the hardship. It's going to be really attributed to that extreme asymmetry of the lot, which I'll probably argue is considerably more severe than the other lots in the neighborhood. We can kind of address that later. And that asymmetry is not necessarily indicative of all the lots in the neighborhood. Yes, I think there's certainly evidence that would show that other lots do probably possess some of that asymmetry, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule. Can we move on to the next slide, please?
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, I've got it back. Okay. So if I may, any questions on that, or I'm going to start kind of going through the various requirements and speaking to some of that?
You can just keep going.
Okay.
If the board members have questions, they'll ask.
Okay, so I want to start to address the first requirement here around the unnecessary hardship resulting from the strict application of regulation. We conducted fairly extensive due diligence around alternative options, and I think you kind of touched on some of those where we could comply with the regulation. One of those being kind of, not the best diagram, what I would call the left build or kind of south build, kind of on the left side here. Where there's a possibility to build on that left strip of the property in a compliant area. So as mentioned, this is going to result in the loss of 3 or 4 windows to the existing home. And one of those windows would render one of the bedrooms completely windowless, which we understand would not be permitted by building or fire codes. It's also going to render the master bathroom windowless. So again, that's kind of like the left compliant space there. I don't know if I can zoom in here. Yep, that's what we want.
Be at the top.
All right. So this space right here, and considering kind of losing these windows right here. And you can see like the strategy that we're trying to employ here is leveraging as little space as possible in the non-compliant space and kind of tucking this bedroom away right up against this window. So we're not losing this window right here. The other compliant build that we explored was kind of on the right flank of the home here. And so, you know, that space there is obviously occupied by the driveway. We considered kind of moving the driveway over to this left side of the home. This is all kind of occupied by utility lines right now, which is kind of a suboptimal building space there. And then you kind of saw from the picture, we do have some space to play with in the front of the home. The home is set back a fair distance from the road. We do have a pretty large sun porch on the front that's kind of structurally integrated into the roof line of the current home, and kind of making amendments to that, building bedrooms on the front is really going to require you know, demolition of that porch and extensive changes to the current roof line and support structure. Let me move on to the next slide. Is there any questions on some of that due diligence there? Okay. All right. So let's quickly discuss the second requirement around the hardship resulting from conditions that are peculiar to the property, such as location, size, or topography. Again, just to belabor this, it's, you know, the ordinance doesn't take the unique shape of our lot into consideration. It is a very irregular shape. I would argue one of the more irregular ones on the block. It's as a result, you know, this here is kind of showing, obviously, due to that sharp cut there, this is the type of compliant space we would lose, assuming, you know, the lot went up to here. We would have all of this space. Now, it should be noted, like, we're not asking for all this space here, but we're kind of asking for like this little corner right here. So again, it's not like we're asking to kind of build this whole area here. It's just 102 feet in that space there. So, you know, I think, you know, among that 1,100 square feet that is in the red area, we're asking for 102. The 11-foot setback, it's 10.4 feet, is not carried. Go back up here. So like, this is 10.4 feet. It's not a 10.4 foot setback the whole duration of the project or the length of the project. We're asking for 10.4 feet here, and obviously that would kind of be reduced through the length of the project, right? So, you know, I don't have the exact figure here. I can't quite read this, but maybe Craig, I don't know how many feet this is, but
it's like 19 feet.
19 feet. It quickly, you know, the variance quickly diminishes over the duration of that.
And then, you know, with the suggested addition of the garage, the total building coverage would sit at just 30%. As I understand it, the maximum zoning standard for our lot size is 40%. So it would still be kind of well below that. And addressing number 3, the hardship did not result from actions taken by the applicant or the property owner. As mentioned, you know, we kind of inherited this lot. It was asymmetrical when we bought it. There was a renovation done in 2013, which nicely kind of added a bedroom and a bathroom. But as mentioned, this is one of, you know, the region's, one of the Southeast's fastest changing neighborhoods. This renovation could not have considered the amount of growth in this neighborhood. And just in an attempt to kind of keep this, you know, this property up to the standards of the neighborhood and Charlotte in general, we're asking for this variance. You can kind of see on this picture some of the homes in the neighborhood. This is just a sampling of some, you know, 5 or 6 that sold this year of the 55. You know, this is the house that we look at directly across the street from us. These are kind of sprinkled all around us. And you're looking at, you know, anywhere from 3,600 square feet, 3,000, 3,300, 40, almost 4,400 square feet, kind of properties going in all around us. And certainly I would argue that our home is a bit of an outlier in that respect. Okay. And number 4, speaking to the requirement where the requested variance is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the regulation, and public safety is secured and justice is achieved. Probably belabor this a little bit, but you know, we feel that it's in line with the spirit of the regulation, as well as the spirit of Charlotte, the Sedgefield neighborhood in particular. We're just trying to create a little bit of reasonable living space, you know, for a family of today, preserving the 1940s home. In the absence of this variance, you know, it's pretty likely this home's going to get torn down. Charlotte's quickly changing, quickly growing, and this proposed plan, we believe, brings it in line with the expectations of the region. Obviously, it's going to be, you know, more in line with what future buyers are looking for in a home as well. From a purpose standpoint, a fully compliant expansion of the home to align with building standards of the neighborhood creates hardships due to the peculiar shape of the lot. You know, we already kind of addressed this in like our kind of case here is that it's impractical to construct a triangular house. We all know that, you know, rectangular homes are better uses of space, easier construction, maintenance, safety. And so our goal is to create a reasonable living space. And public safety, you know, I think we kind of don't have any disagreement there. There's no negative impact to public safety. You know, we're not going to compromise the well-being of the community. Our 2 neighbors who are kind of would theoretically be most impacted by this, which they won't be impacted by this, or in support of it. You know, we're close with them. I think they're kind of hoping that we're able to probably get something built so we can stay there and kind of remain close to them. So I think that pretty much covers many of our points. And you know, we're just kind of looking for a way to gather a couple of feet here and there so that we can make this work and we can stay at our home.
Let me just add, if I could, the comment about the viable solution of adding a second story. That is always the easy thing, just add a second story. The issue is that we're trying to add a bedroom. Really, the bedroom is what is non-compliant. The access to it is what causes that little triangular space. But if we were to try to just add a bedroom upstairs, we're impacting the downstairs to get to it. And then now all of a sudden we're redoing the roof lines. I know it's not a budget concern, but we're impacting the house much more by going upstairs than just doing a simple addition on the back. And we are encroaching just a little triangular section, not a full depth. One of the arguments could be that if it was an unheated space, you could encroach that amount with the encroachment into the side, into the rear yard, 50%, less than 50% of the rear elevation. So in that regard, I know it is a heated space, but the impact is very, very minimal. So that, I mean, that's just, and I know there are other solutions, but whether they're really practical is another question.
Just question. the new homes that you showed in the neighborhood, I'm assuming that those homes are pretty much new, and the houses that were there before were similar to your house?
Yeah, so our house is very interesting, maybe not. Our house is probably one of the first ones that kind of started the conversion of the neighborhood. And so they
Okay.
took the original 1948 home, and they made some renovations. And then the neighborhood really took off to the extent where they're basically saying, let's take it a step further. And so many of the homes are being torn down in favor of 4,000, 5,000 square foot homes.
Okay.
So just trying to kind of retain that original 1940s home in the midst of this larger neighborhood.
Okay. Good. Does the board have any questions from the board for the applicant?
Greg, did y'all look at pushing the bathroom towards the street any to sort of alleviate the majority of that encroachment? I guess you lose that one window.
Well, that
On the bedroom.
window is the only window for that bedroom
Yeah.
for egress. And then, I mean, the issue also is you need a hall to connect it to get back there. So anything we do with the other bedrooms, then we're connecting through a bedroom, we're losing a bedroom. So now we're trying to add 2 bedrooms. It's the same with the stair up. You're losing a bedroom to put a stair in. So now you're adding 2 bedrooms upstairs if you go up.
And did you look at putting the access hallway on the south side of that master bedroom and then putting a window out towards the back? So if you kind of flip that master bedroom and hallway to where you're cutting through I guess the old master bath,
Cutting through the old
or
master.
put the hallway adjacent to the old master bath or that new bathroom and closet. Really just mirroring that, flipping it
Pulling it all
to
down.
allow you to push the.
I mean, that's an option. The drawback is that now you're redoing a master bath also to add that. So
You just have to be sworn
Yeah.
in.
Yes, Ms. Warren.
You'll have to be sworn in, but yeah, if you just want to stand up and go over the table to God and the chairman is already.
Okay. All right, for the court reporter, if you can please state your name and address.
Roseanne Cook.
Okay. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but the matter at hand?
I do.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, I did a little bit. I've talked to a lot of builders, a lot of architects. So the existing master bath and bedroom, the bathroom was recently redone. We did like our own little renovation. So we'd love to not tear that out. Also, to the point of building a second story, I've talked to a lot of builders. No one will do that without tearing your first floor down to the studs. And you have to move out of your home for a year. So another point is we're really trying to preserve our original beautiful 1948 hardwoods, the fireplace that we love, the cast iron insert, all that's got to go if you put a second story on. So it's cheaper to just tear the house down and start over, which is why that's what all the builders are doing in the neighborhood.
You don't happen to have, and I don't know if Justin, you have this, an aerial view of your house. I don't know if,
yeah, it was up there. Yeah, it was up there.
like an actual Google.
Yeah, I
Earth
think
area.
that was one of the exhibits for the covenant.
Yeah, I guess you'll have to switch up which and share it as well.
And I will say, to the point of, there are some other homes on the peninsula that do have slanted lots like ours. Of the majority of those, these bottom 3 are all either Airbnbs or rentals. Any of the existing homes, aside from Bill, who lives south of us, all of the small houses, the one above us vacant, has been since we've lived there. That is the original size. Any of the original size homes, with the exception of this white one below, who is a lovely older man who's lived there for like 30 years. They're all going to be rentals or Airbnb. There are no people who own them who actually live in them.
So the ones that are not owned, is that the one to the back of the house?
So these two,
Mhm.
Here, sorry. These two are the neighbors who we've talked to, who we encroach, so those people live there. Sorry. And then rental, either rental or Airbnb. The smaller house over here, rental. This is a larger home. These were torn down, existing structures.
Can I make an important note? This is, so like, we're here, right? And we're asking for 102 feet here. And we're talking about the angles at which these lots, and I agree, like there's a population of lots right here that also exhibit the same attribute of the side of lots ours. None of these are compliant. These are all grandfathered in, right? This has the same slant as ours. It's not within the required setback. This was built in 1945, completely out of compliance with the setback. You know, same with these right here. These are not compliant. And so like what we're asking for is I would maintain a very unique case. And almost like, you know, I wouldn't go as far, but like bringing it into compliance with what you see from our neighbors that have the same slant of lot.
Thanks. Any other questions from the board for the applicant or staff? John, just a quick question. So the newer homes that were built around the Cook's home, I'm trying to see how I can ask this question. So my assumption is that, so are those homes going to be out of compliance since they were built prior to some of these changes? It just seems like if their home is going to go against the UDO requirements, wouldn't the other homes be also? Because those are newer models and they don't reflect the original outlook of the neighborhood.
The newer homes constructed in the neighborhood would have to be compliant with, I guess it most likely be in the legacy ordinance unless they just got permits since June 2023 when the UDO went into effect. I'm not sure all the differences with the setbacks between the N1B zoning district and the it would have been the R4 zoning district. I might defer to Solomon to answer that. But they're within, I think, 5-10 feet of what the UDO is. And I think, like we were showing in that other case, the setbacks actually got smaller between the legacy ordinance and the UDO. But in the case of all these others that were in existence already, and maybe they were undergoing renovations, you can renovate a legal non-conforming home. So if they're being renovated, then whatever was there before would just be, if there was an encroachment before that was grandfathered in under the legacy zoning ordinance because the house was built in, say, 1945, then those conditions would be allowed to be maintained. But any new construction would have to comply with if it was done before 2023, would have had to comply with the legacy zoning ordinance, or if it was more recent construction, have to comply with the UDO.
And they're making the houses 3 stories tall, which is how they're getting so many square feet. But I will say with the UDO changes, the front setback changed for N1B and the sides, but the rear did not get smaller. So it stayed 35 feet.
Okay.
Just
John, just for clarification, okay, so all those non-conforming lots, they're okay until they get ready to be sold, correct? And then when they're sold and they do the surveys, they're going to find that they're non-compliant, correct?
So Board Member Dryden, I think
Is
I
that- I
would
mean, I'm just-
caution the board to stay your questioning to the case at hand, meaning the structure at hand. The conditions of the other lots surrounding, we don't have any particular evidence about whether or not they are legal conforming, legal non-conforming, whether any construction has occurred that either is in compliance or not of either the former zoning ordinance or the current UDO. And so without having all of that information to continue sort of the line of questioning into information into these lots that you don't have concrete evidence would be speculative at this
Well,
point.
I understand that, and I was looking for a speculative answer because the last case we had, we talked about that, about the surrounding lots, or one of the cases we heard this morning, about how they come to us because they got ready to sell it and it didn't fit the ordinance. So hypothetically, would that apply to any lots in the city that?
I think,
And
I
just
think
to-
the issue, I
and
think the issue
If
is
I
that-
may, just legal advice towards the board, if I may. I think one of the first answers in the previous case that zoning staff provided the board was that if you have, for example, a legal non-conforming lot that was constructed within the boundaries of the zoning ordinance prior to the UDO, and there is a change that is being sought after the UDO that may extend the non-conforming nature of that structure, then zoning would require them to come into compliance with the UDO. However, as Mr. Kinley just told the board, if a legal non-conforming lot that complied again with the zoning ordinance but wouldn't comply with the UDO is requesting to do some construction renovation within the footprint of that same legal non-conforming area that currently exists, that might not require additional permits. Now, if a home is being ready to be sold, as long as there is no additional change that would require more permits, then there wouldn't be an issue. Is that correct, Mr. Fortune?
That's correct.
And that's all I was asking.
And then-
I didn't.
And then, one clarification is, yes, R4 had a 40-foot rear yard. Under N1B, we dropped it down to 35 feet.
Yeah, I think the easy clarification is the difference between legal non-conforming and non-conforming. If we did the addition without a permit, we'd be non-conforming, and then we'd have issue with the closing. But if we get the variance, then we are now legally non-conforming, and there's not an issue with selling and closing. For your question on the hypothetical, other properties are non-conforming or not.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is just, I feel for you guys, I feel for you, but this is you're introducing your own pain. This is you guys, it's as simple as that. This is why we paid for 7 years ago, it's when that house is for land. It's why people tear houses down, building new ones that do conform. And they're twice the size of your house, that may be an option for you, but from our perspective, or at least my perspective, you are introducing this pain.
But you wouldn't consider the shape of the lot irregular?
It's exactly like all of Myers Park lots, all over the city, and they're all very much the same. So from my perspective, I feel for you greatly, and it sounds like we've gone through 1,000 different options to try to make this work. But there are other options that definitely will work for you. You may not like those options. They may be more expensive than you're ready for, but there are ways to make this conforming that would not introduce an exception that would put the board in a very bad position. That would be my perspective.
Are there any other questions for staff or the applicant before we move into deliberations? Mr. Salah.
I just need to say one thing. Obviously, as staff, we try to work with all the applicants when they come in, and then obviously at some point, we are at a point where we just have to say, hey, we're at two different sides on an issue, and that's why they come in front of the board. What staff is looking at is obviously with the UDO and some things that are changing, we are trying to make sure that as staff, we're not, I guess, we look at each case on its merits, but we're trying to hold this as a set line so that way, hey, going forth, we know, hey, when you have these lots, because as John stated, we see this all over the city where someone says, hey, I want to expand, and like what staff will do is say, hey, as I make the joke saying, to avoid the bureaucracy of government, let's do this. And then ultimately that's when the applicant has to choose, do they want to do this? But at some point, if they say, I still want to go in front of the board, it's their right. We respect that. And again, we don't want to be trying to make it oppositional, but obviously we have to, when we have to make that line, we have to send a line. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And obviously looking at stuff, again, we can, as Nicole's mentioned, the whole non-conforming, legal non-conforming, it just depends upon when things were built. So like, for example, I tell someone when your home was built in 1940, zoning wasn't in effect in the city. Now that you come to the ordinance today, there are some requirements, and yes, it's possible that someone has something. So again, that's where it starts getting into closing attorneys, things like that when they do that sale. So for us, that's when we start looking at aerials. Staff does their research. Again, trying to look at all the options before we send someone down this variance route. But that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Are there any other questions before we move to deliberation, board members, for the applicant or staff? Okay. All right. Hearing none, this concludes the
Wilson.
presentation.
Just since staff had an opportunity to do a closing statement, just in the interest of fairness, if you would like to extend that same opportunity to the applicants.
Okay. I feel like they said everything they could, but. Okay, all right. And all right. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
As I was saying, this concludes the presentation of evidence. The board will now begin deliberation. The board may reopen the hearing to ask clarifying questions if needed. Interested parties are not permitted to address the board during the portion of today's meeting. However, everyone is permitted to remain present and listen quietly to the board's discussion and vote. As a reminder, this board is tasked with deciding if, based on the evidence presented, this proposal meets the applicant's standards. This decision cannot be based on personal preference of board members. Rather, it is based on standards and evidence. Board members are encouraged to reference the applicable legal standards and specific evidence in their deliberation. So with that, we are now in deliberation. Applicant, I know it's going to be very tempting to address us, but you just cannot during deliberation. All right, so any board members that are willing to speak can do so now.
As I looked at this request, I see the bedroom and the enforcement. I don't have any evidence except for Ms. Cook's statement that she's talked to several builders and they all say they would tear down to the studs. I know from personal experience, that's not always the case. They don't tear the house down from the studs. They just make sure that the roof is reinforced and can carry the weight. And I think that you could find probably a builder who would do that with the stipulation that we're not tearing the room down to the studs. I am, and I listened to what Mr. Shea said, that as we move through this new UDO, I know it's not convenient, but if we're going to have a standard, we need to have a standard. And if the standard is a 35-foot setback for the rear yard, then we need to look at some other options for reconfiguring this rather than just blanketly saying, oh, okay, we'll give you 11 feet. So those are my concerns as we move through this deliberation.
Yeah, I would echo that. Mr. Chair, if I could find a way to approve this, I would like to find a way. I just don't see a way to approve it without violating what the UDO is trying to get done. So.
I would agree with Kevin and Deborah, Mr. Shea and Ms. Dryden, unfortunately, you have a limited canvas to work on. This is how the lot is. There are alternatives that maybe you do not like, but approving this would really set a precedent for the neighborhood of just violating the UDO going forward, which is what we do not wish to happen.
As far as my remarks, just trying to keep in with the scope where it says here, this decision cannot be based on personal preference of the board members, rather it's based on standards and evidence. I do piggyback on what Ms. Dryden was saying, is as we enter this new normal of the UDO board, my hope is that we can catch up to the standards that the UDO is presenting, because not saying I feel, I've seen, again, keeping the scope, our two staff attorneys with not presenting my personal preference to this, but I have seen that this has become a hardship for many in the city as they come before us. So again, that's not me saying anything personal, that's actually what I've been seeing. And so my hope is that as we move forward in this for the foreseeable future, like Ms. Dryden says, that we kind of can get on the same page with where we are as a city, as opposed to where our citizens are too when it comes to their residencies. So that's my comments there. All right. If there are,
Mr. Marshall have any?
no, he said he said no. Okay, so that concludes our deliberations. Now we'll move into voting, unless there's any comments from our attorneys. Did I miss anything? Nothing like that. Okay, so now we'll move into a vote. Is there a motion to approve or deny this variance?
Make a motion to deny.
All right, motion's been made to deny the variance by by Mr. Shea. Is there a second?
Dryden, second.
Okay, second by Ms. Dryden. Now we move to a roll call vote. Ms. Sun,
Deny.
I'm sorry.
Deny.
So remember, a vote yes is to deny the variance, just for
Yes.
for the court report. Okay. Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Shea, Mr. Shea.
You've done that twice now.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, man. All right.
Shay, yes.
Mr. Williamson?
Williamson, yes.
Wilson, no. The variance has been denied. Thank you very much for that. Next on our agenda is,
Gotta do the finding of facts.
I'm sorry about that. Finding of facts, conclusions of law. We have to now review that for approval. Again, number 4 in the conclusions of law. Again, it says the intent of the zoning ordinance, it should be UDO. Do we have to make any additions or changes based upon our denial? I don't.
Because they denied it.
Denied it. Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we got that.
covered number 4.
That would be the only one.
I think I'm looking at the wrong one.
All right, then I make a motion to accept the finding of facts and conclusions of law as edited with the number 4 in conclusions of law.
Okay, motion's been made to approve the finding of facts and conclusions of law as edited by Ms. Dryden. Is there a second? Excuse me.
Shay, second.
Okay. Now we're going to a roll call vote. Mr. Shea, got that right this time.
Thank you. Shay, yes.
Mr. Williamson,
Williamson, yes.
Ms. Dryden,
Dryden, yes.
Ms. Sun,
Sun, yes.
Wilson, yes. Nicole, are we still going to do the board attorney to provide the closed session? Do you want to wait?
No, at this point, we would ask that we have the closed session at the next meeting in February.
Okay, next month, February. Okay, any other items that we need to cover from staff?
No, if you have a parking ticket, Maya is here and can validate your parking ticket. And then there's also lunch.
And then also, just to introduce you, this is Commissioner Lampley. She will be the clerk to the board going forward.
Okay,
Yay.
and,
She's leaving.
here. Meeting,
I make a motion to adjourn.
motion been moved to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please, say aye.
Aye.
Motion, meeting is adjourned. So my last meeting is next month, or is this my last meeting? Next month, okay.